Dad bought a new house with borrowed money, lied about it, and didn't invite me to the housewarming party because he and my stepmom have disliked me for years. As a result, I did something he would regret, so I kind of ruined my dad's housewarming party a few days ago. But trust me, I had a good reason. Let me explain before you start judging. I'm 26, and I lost my mom when I was just 5 due to a freak accident. My dad stayed single for a long time and only started dating again when I was 13, so we were super close. Things were great until he met my stepmom Nora when I was 15. They dated for a few years before getting married, and I always had this gut feeling that Nora didn't really like me. But she acted normal, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. After they got married, we all lived together until I moved out for college. When I came back home after graduation, planning to stay until I found a job, everything had changed. Nora wasn't hiding her feelings anymore. She openly disliked me. I tried talking to my dad about it, but he just brushed it off, saying she was going through some family stuff. I felt like I was the problem, so I moved out as quickly as I could and kept my distance from Nora. Even during visits, I avoided talking to her. For the past few years, I've kept in touch with my dad, but avoided the topic of Nora. Last week, my dad called to say they bought a new house, which surprised me because his business hadn't been doing well. But I was happy for him and offered to help with the move. I was there every step of the way, expecting some gratitude. However, I later found out from relatives that they were having a housewarming party, and I wasn't even invited. When I confronted my dad, he said it was Nora's idea. She wanted a fresh start and didn't see a need to bring in what she called his past mistakes, which apparently included me. My dad said he didn't agree with her but respected her wishes. It felt like he was choosing her over me, which led to a huge fight. I told him I was done with this toxic situation. My grandparents were also upset. They had always treated my dad like their own son after my mom died and felt betrayed. They believed Nora had changed him for the worse. Honestly, I don't even know what her problem is with us. My mom isn't even around anymore, so why is she competing with her family? It's so pathetic. For a few days, I kept it to myself, but then my aunt called, asking why I wasn't attending the party. She thought I was missing it because of a business retreat, which I had no clue about. Turns out, my dad had lied to everyone, saying I had this retreat, and that's why I couldn't make it. I told my aunt the whole story, including what Nora said about me being a past mistake. She was just as upset and wanted to fix things by talking to my dad. I told her not to, because it would probably just make things worse. Then she mentioned something interesting. My dad had been telling everyone he bought the house with his own money, but his business had been struggling. My aunt had her suspicions and had confronted him about it. My dad admitted he borrowed the money, but he didn't say from whom. So my dad borrowed a ton of cash from one of his business buddies who had just come into a big inheritance from a relative. Let's call this buddy Sam. Sam had been working with my dad forever, and they were super close. Like, they used to have dinner together all the time until Sam moved away. Apparently, my dad told Sam he needed to borrow money because I needed it for my expenses, and my dad's business wasn't doing great, so he couldn't help me out. He didn't want to let his son down, so Sam bought into it and lent him the money. But the real story? My dad wanted the money to buy a new house because he had almost enough saved up and just needed a bit more. He figured buying a house would save him on rent, and he could pay Sam back whenever his business took off. Rent, on the other hand, is something you have to pay every month or you're out on the street. Dad thought this was a genius move and even bragged about it to my aunt. She told him it was super shady, but he didn't care. He went around telling everyone he had made it on his own and was now a homeowner. The kicker? He didn't even invite Sam to the housewarming because Sam didn't live nearby. My aunt spilled all this to me and hinted that if I wanted to get back at my dad, I now knew how. After mulling it over for a few days, I decided to call Sam. I was really ticked off at how my dad had treated me and couldn't let it slide. I laid everything out for Sam and asked for his help. To my surprise, Sam was on board immediately. He was shocked my dad would pull such a stunt. Sam had been reluctant to lend the money in the first place because he wanted to save it for his kids and use his own money for retirement. Plus, he knew my dad's business was struggling and wasn't sure when he'd get his money back. But my dad had played the sentimental card about wanting to help his son, so Sam caved. Sam couldn't believe that my dad had lied about everything just to buy a new house, and then didn't even invite me to the party. To make matters worse, some friends had told Sam about the new house, so he confronted my dad. my dad lied again, saying the house was bought with his wife's savings, not the money borrowed from Sam. That money, he claimed, was all for me. Sam was furious and didn't need much convincing to go along with my plan. On the day of the housewarming, Sam and I showed up unannounced. My dad was surprised, but didn't want to make a scene in front of his guests. He pulled us aside and begged us to leave, promising to explain everything later. But we were there to make a point. As loudly as we could, we announced to everyone that my dad hadn't saved enough money to buy the house on his own. We told them how he borrowed the money from Sam under the pretense of helping me, and then didn't even invite me to the party. The guests were shocked. After we had exposed all his lies, Sam and I left. Since then, my dad has been blowing up my phone, begging me to apologize and fix his reputation. But I don't care. He didn't care about my feelings, so why should I care about his? He hasn't even apologized to me for his behavior or for lying to Sam. He's in a lot of trouble, but he deserves it. However, my roommate feels bad for him. We've been living together for 4 years, and he's a good friend. He thinks what I did was unnecessary. He believes that if my dad made it clear he didn't want me in his life, I should have just cut him off instead of creating more drama. So, here's the deal. I told him straight up that comparing me to him, or even to Nora, was super unfair. He just wouldn't get what I was going through because his family life is pretty smooth compared to mine. We argued about it, and now we haven't talked for a few days. Honestly, I'm starting to second guess if I made the right call because he has a point. Maybe I should have just let it slide. Now, why did I crash my dad's housewarming party uninvited and spill the beans? Some people wanted more context about my relationship with Nora. To be real, we didn't really have much of a relationship. At first, she was a bit cold, but acted normal enough, probably just adjusting to having me around. When I came back from college, though, she went full-on rude, like, openly rude. And my dad? He just stood there and said nothing, even when it happened right in front of him. I don't really get the family issues excuse he used to defend Nora's behavior. As far as I know, she's pretty tight with her family. They were even at the housewarming. My guess? Nora just got used to not having me around and wanted her space. And she succeeded because my dad let her push me out. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but after this, I don't think that's gonna work anymore. Why Nora has a problem with me? No clue. I've never given her any reason to feel insecure, but she is. It's pathetic, but it is what it is. As for my aunt, she's always had my back. She's the one who told me about how my dad got the money for the house. She's been like a mom to me since my real mom passed away. No other relatives reached out about why I skipped the party, but she did. She didn't expose my dad herself because she didn't want drama with my grandparents. Fair enough, I guess. I've never really been close with them anyway, so this doesn't change much for me. Update. So, it's been 3 days since my last post, and I finally talked to my roommate. We hadn't spoken since the fight, and I didn't want to lose him as a friend over this. I explained how betrayed I felt by my dad. Instead of understanding, he called me petty and juvenile. The fight escalated, and he flat out said he didn't want to be friends with someone who just creates drama. He even said if I can't be loyal to my father, I wouldn't be loyal to him either. What? I told him I'm ending the lease at the end of the month, and that's that. He was supportive at first, but now he's done a complete 180. I'm not going to stand for that disrespect, so I'm looking for a new place. I was planning to move out by the end of the year anyway, so I'm just pushing it up. As for my family, my dad has been blowing up my phone for days, but I'm ignoring him. He seems to have gotten the hint because he's stopped trying. Nora, on the other hand, texted me to say I'm a horrible person and a disappointment to my dad. I shot back that he's a disappointment to me too, and that was that. My aunt told me the whole family is siding against my dad, because even though he's claiming Sam and I made up lies, no one believes him. Everyone knows his business is struggling, so how could he afford this house? My grandparents are mad at me too. They agree what my dad did was wrong, but they think I should have confronted him in person instead of airing it all out. Air out our dirty laundry in public? Well, good thing for me. I really don't care what anyone thinks. They can be as mad as they want. Our relationship has always been rocky because they're super uptight and more concerned about their image than actually being decent people. We haven't really talked in years, and honestly, I don't see myself speaking to them again. So, Sam and I split up and had zero contact for a few days, nothing to talk about. But then yesterday, Sam told me my dad finally reached out to him. Even in this mess, my dad had the nerve to act like he was the victim. He claimed he never expected Sam to betray him and tried to paint me as a liar and manipulator. According to my dad, I'd supposedly asked him for help, and that's why he asked Sam for money. Now, he's saying I'm turning back on my word because Nora has some beef with me, thinks I'm nasty to her, and that I'm trying to ruin his reputation. Dad then said he'd try to return all the money by the end of the year. Honestly, he should have planned to repay it regardless of how big this mess got. But my dad has no pride or self-respect. Thankfully, Sam didn't buy into that nonsense. He told my dad he'd believed in his honesty after all these years of friendship, but clearly, that was too much to expect. Sam didn't chat much with my dad. He just told him to pay up or expect a call from his lawyer. Smart guy. Sam made my dad sign paperwork, so if he doesn't follow through, he's in real trouble. About time he faces some consequences. Update. So, it's been a month since I last posted. I moved out and blocked my ex-roommate on all social media. I've totally cut ties. Those last weeks before our lease ended were the worst. We weren't talking, and then he started acting like I was Medusa or something. Wouldn't even look at me. That hurt because we'd been friends for so long. But hey, it is what it is. I had to leave for my own sanity. On move-out day, he didn't even say bye, so I knew I had to cut him out completely. It was tough, but my friends agreed it was the right move. As for my family, no contact with my dad after that last blow-up. Only my aunt is still in touch. Everyone else is ignoring both me and my dad. No sense in that. I didn't do anything wrong. My aunt says my grandparents are the root of it. They think I was just as wrong for airing the dirty laundry in public and have convinced everyone else of this nonsense. It's sad, really, because I used to have good relationships with these people. But childhood is gone, and so are those ties. Only my mom's side of the family treats me like family now, and I'm cool with that. My aunt has also cut ties with our grandparents and dad. She's realized she doesn't need their validation, just like I don't. Update 3. Hey, back again after 2 weeks. My dad and Nora tried to contact me a few days ago. I blocked their texts, but then they showed up at my workplace during lunch. I didn't want them causing a scene, so I told the receptionist to have them wait. Then I took them to a nearby restaurant to avoid dealing with them in front of my coworkers. I was already super embarrassed they showed up at work. I kept telling them how violating this was, and they at least had the decency to apologize. They said they wanted to apologize for how they'd treated me. Nora admitted she'd been jealous of my close relationship with Dad, feeling like he was still attached to his late wife. My dad apologized for being a fool. They said they didn't expect me to start talking to them again, but just wanted to say sorry. So they said they were sorry, and I told them I accepted their apologies. But for now, I just don't want anything to do with them, because honestly, I'm finally happy, and I don't want them to mess that up. I was kind of expecting them to get mad or react badly, but to my surprise, they were super chill about it. They even said I could take my time and that they were okay with that. We wrapped up our lunch, and they even picked up the tab before they left. I still don't fully trust them, and I'm not sure I ever will, but I'm glad they apologized and that we could resolve things. It feels like I got the closure I needed to properly move on. However, that doesn't mean I'm going to forgive them completely or get back in touch anytime soon. I need to take my time, think things over, and maybe in a year or two, I might consider reconnecting with them, if I feel like it. For now, like I mentioned in my last update, I'm really happy with how my life is going, and I want to keep it that way.